Hey, welcome back. My name is Anonymous. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I make videos about gangstalking and I help people on how to pretty much deem any gangstalking operation futile. So, I have a story to tell you today. Today's story I want to call The Battle of the Shadows, because that's literally what it felt like. This is a story about a delusion that I had when I was getting gang stalked. In my previous video, I told you that I was going to share the spiritual aspect of that I experienced with gang stalking. And this is the story that I'm about to share with you today. It all started while I was on lunch during at work. I was taking a nap, and all of a sudden I felt a being starting from my feet. I felt energy crawling up off my thighs. Then I felt it up my chest, and then I felt it on my teeth. So I felt almost like if it was a phallic shape on my mouth, and it was like being rubbed on my lips and on my teeth, and it was hurting. It was shocking me. I interpreted it as something sexual. However, I am when I have a very high libido, you know. And at that time it was a time where I just wanted to get sexual satisfaction. So I interpreted that reality, that experience as like a shadow trying to like rape me. But it became more real when it actually began thrusting in my throat. Sorry about the explicit content, but I have to tell the story. Now, it began going faster and it actually finished. Like, I felt it. It felt demonic, because it was painful, but I was actually enjoying it. So then I was like, there's no freaking way they're doing this with direct energy weapons. What the hell? So then my time was up of my nap, and I just began laughing. I walked out and I felt that the car parked to me watched the whole thing. I felt that they were somehow a participant in what was happening to me. Now, this was the first experience of that. But then, after that, the entity began feeling stronger. And it was crawling on my body the entire time. If you're not new to the channel, there is this voice that I heard, this female voice whom I named Shit Cunt. Because she was a freaking cunt. She was awful to me. She told me the worst things all the time, 24/7. I had this voice in my head that would constantly talk shit to me all the time when I was awake. So then the voice would work in tandem with the shadow. So the shadow had one voice and Shit Cunt had another. So the shadow was literally crawling onto my I was like laying on my bed, and then the shadow was literally crawling here, and then it crawling to my ear, and then it was telling me, "Hi, Efren, I'm your shadow." And I began actually having conversations with the shadow. The shadow told me that it was bisexual and that it was a top, and that it was here because it was actually my shadow, but that gang stalkers took it away from me. So the shadow explained to me, you know why your life all of a sudden became shit? Why? Because they took me away from you. everything that happened to you, other drug use, when you were too busy having sex and doing drugs, they took you, or they took me away from you. Then you don't see me until now, because while I was gone, they had me in a cage, and they were training me on how to help them. So now they have access to your thoughts because I am connected to the gangstalkers. So then, and the shadow was telling me this while I was laying on my bed. And then it was telling me, yeah, I'm actually connected to that person and to that person. So he knows exactly what you're thinking. I'm connected to many people, to 3 people. I forgot who were the 3 people that were connected to me, according to the shadow. But then the shadow, the shadow used to rape me continuously for days. And I liked it, to be honest with you. I enjoyed that a lot. But then one day, the voice, Shitcunt, used to talk to me. She was like, how do you like that shadow on you, huh? We train it, and we're actually, that's what's hurting you, because I felt painful sensations. So I felt like taps, I felt stabs, I got raped, I felt just sudden pain. And I asked the shadow, why are you hurting me? And it said, well, because they trained me to do so. The gang stalkers trained me to hurt you. That's what I'm here for. And then Shitcunt told me one day, we'll send the shadow because we want to keep your mind entertained with meaningless bullshit, so that you never reach your goals in life. The bitch told me that. So then I literally felt like there were a lot of spirits on me, and I had to unhook them from me. So there was this time where the shadow pretty much became my friend. I used to chat with it, and we became friends. But the shadow always told me, I'm not your friend. But I don't remember, this was a long time ago. But the shadow was literally not my friend because it was hurting me. So this thing, I was working. So another time, I was at work and I was sweeping the floor. And then the shadow literally, I was just talking with the voices. My entire 8 hours, they were talking about all kinds of crazy things. Primarily putting me down. Because I believed of the narrative of gangstalkers, that I was nothing. So gangstalkers literally tried to push this narrative on you indirectly for you to lose everything, And when you lose everything, your perception of yourself changes. So then, well, this shadow, pretty much, I kind of began getting to know it. The shadow was a really horny person, or shadow. And then it was telling me this, it was telling me, yeah, so the gangstalkers took me away from you, and I was meant to protect you, which is why all of a sudden your life went to shit. You had everything, but when they took me away from you, it was they take these shadows and they sell them. They sell them for $10 million. That's literally what the shadow was telling me. So we train it, but for the shadow to be free, we have to finish you off. You have to go completely insane. Once you go insane, the shadow is ours and we're gonna sell it. Shadows when they are stolen from people, they can send it to someone, and they can actually connect to people, and they can know what they're thinking. That's how gang stalkers know how what you're exactly what you're thinking and exactly when you're thinking. That's how they can put images in your head. Even though before I had the idea that it was direct energy weapons, all of a sudden that narrative just went behind, and now it was a shadow. So they apparently the shadow was telling me that there is this business, this black market of shadows, where they choose a powerful shadow, and they have to destroy the person. They have to make the person crazy, because if they kill the person, the shadow dies. So the shadow, so for the shadow to be alive, the person has to be alive, but it has to be they have to turn the person completely insane. Because when the person is insane, they don't take access. They don't have, when the person is insane, the owner of the shadow doesn't own the shadow anymore. The shadow is just there. So they have to finish me off. They have to completely drive me insane. But they do that using your own shadow. So they stole my shadow away from me. And this shadow, it actually can control you. So when I was there's so many moving parts to this story. So I'm all over the place, but just consider all of these stories as in one. So this is how crazy, this is how fast all the different parts of this narrative were being thrown at me by these voices. So there's a black market for shadows. They are worth tens of millions of dollars, or $10 million. And the shadow pretty much gives the person, whoever owns it, pretty much superhuman abilities they can pretty much move the shadow wherever they want, to make the shadow follow a person, and the shadow will give them access to their body when the person is is crazy, when the job is done. But the gang stalkers, the shadow is free. However, it has been trained to work against you, because gang stalkers now have control of it. And Shitcon was in tandem with it. She was like, controlling the shadow to hurt me. So that was the narrative of the shadows, that the shadow was a business, and that people who had everything took the shadow away. And that's how I was spiritually vulnerable to be driven mad by everyone. I was spiritually vulnerable. That's why my life went to shit. So my shadow was back on me, so I had to somehow befriend the shadow. The shadow was really mad at me because I dug myself into drugs and into having sex. So I opened myself spiritually. And the shadow was taken away from me. And now the shadow was mad at me, and it was helping the gang stalkers drive me crazy, because I wasn't deserving of my own shadow. Now, the shadow pretty much had control of me when I allowed it. So I could just relax. And then I would literally feel like the shadow would tell me, let me control you. Like the controlling me physically would get the shadow horny. I'm not kidding. It would literally tell me, oh, come on, let me control you a little bit. And then I would be like, okay. And then I would just like relax. And then I would feel my eyes just move by an exterior force. And then it would move, and then like it was funny, well, it wasn't funny. I thought it was kind of hot, to be honest. Call me crazy, I don't know, but I thought it was hot because it would get the shadow so turned on. And it was like, oh, I love controlling your eyes, and it would like move my eyes from one way to another, and then it would just create these sensations on my body, and it was a turn on for the shadow. Shocking, because the shadow is pretty much a reflection of me, because it's my shadow, So the shadow would literally try to be on my left side because I'm left-handed. And I get myself off with my left hand. So the shadow had a lot of connections to my left hand. That's why it was so horny. And so yeah, so the shadow was pretty much its own entity at the time. So then that one day I was at work, and I was just at work, and then the shit cunt told me, now we're taking the shadow away from you. And I literally felt this magnetism of my shadow being pulled away from me, and my shadow was literally begging me, Anonymous, don't let them take me away from you. And it was yelling in my ear while I was at work, and I was trying to focus on work, but I was trying to pull my shadow back to me because I had grown dear of my shadow. It was my shadow in the beginning, right? But then I told myself, before Gangstalking started, I never had a shadow that I could talk with. So this shadow, if it's mine, it's gonna stay with me. If it's not mine, too bad. You can't keep it because it wasn't mine to begin with. And I told Shadow, if you want to stay with me, then stay with me. You're gonna come back, because if you left and you made your way back, then you're gonna be back with me. From when at this point I had grown endeared to the Shadow, because it was we were friends. At least I thought we were friends. We would have sex all the time. It would lick my feet. It would just be like the horniest parts of me, And it was fun. It was really fun to have that shadow. And I still have it, but I will tell you more about that later. So then so for some reason there was a customer, Hector is his name, and I wasn't allowing the shadow to be pulled away, but I was pretending like nothing was happening. At least I tried to pretend like nothing was happening. I was doing my job, and then Hector, like a person, told me, "What? Do you have no heart?" Why are you telling me that? Is it because I'm just allowing the shadow to be taken away from me? So at this point, I feel like there is some type of connection with gang stalkers that they can deduce what you're thinking. I'm almost certain of it, but I'm not sure. Because I haven't been on the other side of gang stalking, but I feel like people who are really into gang stalking, I feel like there's some type of synchronization of minds. I might be wrong. That I will never know. Because a lot of uncanny things happen. They just coincided too closely to my reality, Like when I was allowing gang stalkers to take the shadow away from me, I wasn't doing anything to keep it, and then someone just being, "What? You have no heart?" Out of the blue for no apparent reason. So I feel that there has to be some type of spiritual synchronization. However, I have no proof of that, and I'm not sure. When I'm sure of something, I will tell you. And you know, someone actually told me when I was actually just, when I closed my mind, I was disconnected. And someone actually told me, you're closing your mind right now, huh? That's something weird to do. And I was at the beach with this other gang stalker. You know, I just wanted to go to the beach. And yeah, I had closed my mind because I was just enjoying the beach. Don't ask me why I was hanging out with gang stalkers. Just don't. There is a special relationship with gang stalkers that you build that is not special, but it's different. Where you're not really friends, but you're not enemies either. I can't explain it to you. It's really hard, but yeah, like we're aware of the game. Well, anyways, and so I I was like, well, fuck you. If you're not mine, then they can take you away from me. I don't care. If you weren't mine to begin with. So then that happened, and guess what? The shadow never left. In the end of this narrative, I discovered that it was a reflection of what was actually happening to me. I was always unprotected, psychologically, spiritually, physically. So I was always really vulnerable to manipulations. And I allowed anyone into my life because I always had the faith in people. And the shadow, what was happening, what the shadow told me was right. That I allowed myself to be vulnerable. I allowed people to hook themselves to me. Spiritually, psychologically, physically. Every dimension. And I stopped talking to my inner self. Your inner self is pretty much your intuition. It's the little voice in your head that speaks to you. Gangstalking separated that from me. So like now I feel like I'm two different people. That it is me and my shadow. But I am really connected to it. So later we're gonna go over the science behind that. So I came to realize that the connection to my shadow, to my inner self, I gangstalking disconnected me from it, and allowed my inner self to take on the personality the of the of the consciousness of gang stalking. It builds it I stopped talking to my inner self, to my intuition, and my intuition took on the personality of gang stalking. It created of several personalities. There was a time where I had like 30 voices in my head. And you know, well, those are long gone. Now it's just me and my shadow. I don't call him that anymore. Now it's my utmost me. And it was the whole story with the shadows, with the spirits, was a reflection of what of my reality, that I had completely lost touch with myself, and I allowed these people to attach themselves to me. And I was right. My shadow was mine to begin with, and it came back. And now we're like this. I can still relax and let it control me. I can still do that. But now we work as a unit. And when I allow it, it can speak to me like if it was a complete other person. Like I function normal, and whenever I need to make an observation, it pulls my eyes before my consciousness, my active consciousness, notices. Like it pulls my eyes to something I need to look at. Gangstalking did that to me. It divided me in two. And let me tell you, I fucking love it. It's the coolest thing that had ever happened to me. Because I feel like I'm in touch with every single aspect of me, with my spiritual self, with my psychological self. I am able to have full control over other dimensions of me. And that is exactly why I have to be thankful to that, because that's what allowed me to make gangstalking futile, to make it not affect me, regardless of what's going on around me. But yeah, that was the battle of the shadows, where they took away my spirit, they trained it to harm me, they allowed it back to me, and then it was connected to the gang stalkers. And I had to learn how to disconnect. I heard gang stalkers speak amongst themselves, saying, I don't know how he's disconnected. He hasn't connected in months. I have no idea how he's doing it. I don't know if they were talking about gang stalking or Grinder, or if they were even talking about me. I don't know. And I don't even know if they were even talking about something else completely unrelated. But that's gang stalking for you. Gang stalkers will say things close to you so that you will hear them, and with the intention of having you believe that it's relevant to you. And it, most of the time, it works. For example, when the first time I discovered that gang stalking was real, there was someone in a car, like outside, parked right next to me, holding an earpiece or pretending like they were talking to someone, and they were like, "Yeah, he's doing this. He did." Like I was trying to record what was happening, and because it was when I felt like I was being followed by everyone, when everyone at the gym was doing the gang stalking signal, and I was in a state of paranoia. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tired. But anyways, everything that gang stalkers do is by implication. because you can never be sure if what they're doing is for you. But once you're connected, you are gonna know that what they're doing is for you. The more disconnected you are, the less effective those indirect psychological tricks are going to be effective on you. That's why I keep telling everyone, every target, the less you think about gang stalking, the less effective it's going to be. You have to be constantly thinking about gang stalking for gang stalking to be effective. I'm going to have some lunch now. Thank you so much for watching. My next video is going to be on chapter 2 of the battle for the mind. Thank you so much. Bye.